Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation with a guy, wondering what did he actually mean by that? You're not alone. Men often express their feelings between the lines, using subtle phrases that seem casual but are actually loaded with meaning. And if you don't know how to decode them, you might miss golden opportunities. Or worse, misread the situation entirely. Welcome to today's deep dive into the 6 key phrases men use when they secretly want you. This isn't fluff. This is real, raw, and psychology-backed insight that will change the way you view male communication forever. Here's the truth. Men are taught to guard their emotions, to not be too obvious. So when they want you, it doesn't always come out in grand gestures. It slips out in words that seem harmless, until you know what to listen for. Most dating advice tells you to just trust your gut or watch his actions. But words matter. Words reveal intention, especially the ones that come out when his guard is down. In the next 30 minutes, you'll get insider-level knowledge to help you read between the lines, whether it's a text, a conversation, or even something he says during a vulnerable moment. So grab a notebook, because once you understand what these 6 phrases really mean, you'll never second-guess his words again. Let's jump in, and by the end of this video, you'll have the power to hear what most women miss. When a man says, "I've never told anyone this before," he's not just sharing a story, he's opening a door. And it's not a door he opens for just anyone. This phrase signals vulnerability, trust, and emotional depth. It means you're no longer just someone he's interested in. You're someone he feels safe with. That's a powerful shift. Most men are raised to keep their emotions in check. They're taught to stay strong, act unfazed, and avoid showing what could be perceived as weakness. So when a man chooses to expose a part of himself, especially something personal, emotional, or private, it's a significant step. He's giving you a backstage pass to who he really is underneath the surface. This phrase often comes up in moments of intimacy that aren't necessarily physical, like a deep conversation during a late-night drive, a quiet moment over dinner, or even while texting back and forth at 1 a.m. The subject could be anything: a childhood memory, a fear, a dream he's never said out loud, or something painful from his past. Whatever the topic, the fact that he's choosing to share it with you is the point. What he's really saying underneath is, "I trust you. I feel comfortable letting you see the parts of me I usually keep hidden." That's not casual. That's emotional risk. And risk in relationships is often the first sign of genuine emotional investment. Now, here's where most women miss the deeper meaning. They hear the story, they empathize, they listen, but they don't always realize what the phrase represents. It's not just about what he said. It's about the choice to say it and who he said it to. That moment isn't just him being open. It's a subtle way of inviting you to go deeper too. It's his unspoken way of saying, "Let's connect on a level most people never reach with me." The best way to respond: acknowledge the trust. Something like, "I really appreciate you sharing that with me." Or, "That must have taken a lot to say." These types of responses affirm his vulnerability and make him feel seen, not just heard. And when a man feels seen by a woman, he begins to emotionally attach. This phrase also creates exclusivity. When he says, "I've never told anyone this before," he's essentially saying, "You're not like the others." It elevates your connection to a level where he starts to think about you differently, not just as someone he's attracted to, but someone he can emotionally invest in. That's when things shift from casual interest to real potential. But here's an important caveat. Don't confuse this phrase with emotional manipulation. Some men, especially those with narcissistic traits, know that vulnerability builds connection, so they fake it to earn trust. Pay attention to consistency. Is his vulnerability followed by sincerity and emotional depth? Or is it a performance that doesn't match how he treats you? Real emotional sharing comes with emotional availability. If he's constantly hot and cold, disappears after opening up, or uses these confessions to guilt trip or control you, that's a red flag, not a romantic moment. But when it's genuine, when it's slow, steady, and paired with consistent behavior, this phrase is one of the strongest green flags you can get early on. It's the kind of moment that builds real intimacy. And if you handle it with emotional maturity and warmth, he'll associate that moment of vulnerability with you, and that emotional imprint is powerful. So the next time a man says, "I've never told anyone this before," listen to his story, but more importantly, hear his heart. That phrase may be the key to unlocking something deeper than attraction. It could be the start of emotional bonding, the kind that leads to lasting love. When a man says, "You make me want to be better," he's not just giving you a compliment, he's revealing something much deeper about how he sees you and how you're affecting his identity. This phrase is less about romance on the surface and more about aspiration. It means that being around you challenges him in the best way possible. Men are naturally wired to seek purpose and growth, whether it's in their career, mindset, or character. The feeling of evolving, of becoming more, is deeply fulfilling. So when a man tells you that you make him want to be better, he's acknowledging that your presence in his life is inspiring real change. It's not just about liking you, it's about seeing you as someone who activates a higher version of himself. This phrase can come in different forms. Maybe he says he wants to work harder, be more emotionally available, get healthier, or stop repeating toxic patterns. Whatever the area of improvement, the motivation is clear. That's powerful, because in relationships, change that comes from within is the only kind that lasts. And if he feels naturally motivated to grow because of how you show up in his life, it's a sign he respects and admires you on a deep level. It's also a major emotional signal. Most men won't say this unless they're emotionally invested. Why? Because it's an admission. He's letting you know he's not perfect, but that he wants to rise to meet the standard he feels you deserve. And the truth is, he wouldn't care about improving if he didn't see you as someone meaningful. A fling or casual connection doesn't create that kind of self-awareness potential partnership does. There's also a subtle layer to this. This phrase is often a clue that he's already been reflecting on who he is and where he's headed. Maybe your values challenged his habits. Maybe your boundaries made him rethink how he communicates. Maybe your confidence reminded him of the kind of woman he wants to be worthy of. In any case, it's not just about what you say or do, it's about who you are. Men don't want to be told to change, but they will change for a woman who holds herself to a high standard and inspires without forcing. That's the magic behind this phrase. He's telling you, I want to grow because of you. And when that motivation is genuine, it's one of the strongest indicators that he sees a real future with you. Let's be clear, this is not just curiosity. This is a signal of emotional investment. When a man brings up the status of your connection, it means it's been on his mind. He's no longer just enjoying the moment. He's thinking about the future. He's thinking about you in his future. And that is a massive shift in how he sees the relationship. Here's the key. Men don't ask these questions lightly. These are vulnerable questions. They open the door for rejection, disappointment, or an answer they may not want to hear. So when a guy steps up and asks, what are we? He's risking his ego, his pride, and his emotional comfort to gain clarity. That means he's not just into you. He's emotionally invested enough to need to know where you stand. Another layer to this phrase, it's accountability. A man who asks this is emotionally mature enough to want an honest conversation. He's not interested in guessing games, breadcrumbing, or floating in a situationship. He wants to define the bond, even if it's scary, because it matters to him. Now, some women might get confused or cautious when a guy asks this. Society teaches us to be wary of a man with feelings too soon, as if emotional vulnerability is a red flag. But the truth is, emotional clarity is one of the strongest green flags you can get from a man. He's not playing games. He's trying to understand the rules of the game. You're playing together. It's also a sign that he's starting to make emotional decisions based on your presence in his life. Maybe he's thinking twice before making long-term plans. Maybe he's pulling away from dating apps. Maybe he's already mentally shifting into commitment mode. But he needs to know if he's doing it with you. So how should you respond when you hear this? Start with honesty. If you're not sure, say so, but say it with compassion. If you are feeling the same way, this is a golden opportunity to build trust. You don't have to have every detail figured out, but meeting his question with sincerity will build intimacy and emotional safety. Keep in mind too, that this question can come from a place of emotional tension. Maybe things have been getting deeper between you two. More time together, more vulnerability, maybe even intimacy. And now he needs to know, is this real? Or are we just passing time? So when he says, what are we? He's not just asking about labels. He's asking if his heart is safe with you, if this connection is worth further investment, If you see him as someone who could be part of your life, not just now, but potentially long term, don't miss the power of that question. Because in a world full of casual talk and surface level dating, a man who asks where things are going is a man who's trying to take you seriously. And that's rare and worth paying attention to. When a man says, I miss you, it might sound simple, maybe even expected in certain situations, but don't overlook the emotional weight behind those 3 words. Because when it's real and unprompted, I miss you often means much more than just I wish you were here. It's one of the clearest verbal signs that you're taking up space in his emotional world, and that space feels empty without you. Men aren't always great at expressing their feelings. In fact, many have been conditioned to suppress emotion or keep it under wraps unless it's tied to action. So for a man to voice that he misses you, that's vulnerability. It's emotional exposure. It means he's feeling your absence and he's not afraid to let you know. But there's more to it than that. When a man says, I miss you, he's telling you that your presence adds something to his life, something he's become aware of only because it's not there. Your energy, your voice, the way you make him feel. He notices the gap when you're gone. And this gap isn't just physical, it's emotional. He misses the feeling of connection, the comfort of being around you, the version of himself that shows up when you're near. This phrase usually slips out during quiet moments, maybe at the end of a busy day, during a late night text, or even out of nowhere, while he's driving or thinking about you. It might seem casual, but it's actually a signal that you're starting to have an emotional impact on him. You're not just someone he talks to, you're someone who affects him when you're not around. Now, not all I miss yous are created equal. There's a difference between a shallow miss you thrown out of habit and a real one that's felt deeply. A genuine I miss you is usually paired with more context. Maybe he tells you something reminded him of you. Maybe he says he wishes you were with him in that moment. Or he follows up with plans to see you. These are the kinds of details that tell you his words aren't just polite, they're personal. And here's the deeper truth. When a man tells you he misses you, he's also revealing his emotional comfort level. He's admitting that he feels and that those feelings are strong enough to notice your absence. That's a milestone in emotional attachment. It means you've moved from interest to importance. It also shows that he sees you as a source of comfort or peace. Men don't typically miss chaos or confusion. They miss warmth, connection, and clarity. So if he misses you, it means being around you makes him feel something he wants to feel again. That's how longing begins, and longing is often the precursor to love. Now, how you respond matters. You don't have to overthink it. A simple, I miss you too, or a playful, oh, what part of me do you miss, can keep the energy warm and connected. But if you're unsure about his intentions, this is a good moment to watch what he does next. A man who truly misses you will often follow this phrase with effort, calls visits, planning time together. Words are the door, but action is what walks through it. On the flip side, if a guy only says, I miss you when he wants something, like after pulling away or right before trying to hook up, it's worth examining whether his words are tied to real emotion or just convenience. Genuine missing comes with emotional context, not just late night texts. So next time you hear those words, pause and look deeper. A heartfelt I miss you is often a man's way of saying, you matter to me more than I expected. And being without you doesn't feel quite right. And that's a window into a heart that's quietly but powerfully opening up to you. When a man says, you're different from other women, he's not just handing out flattery, he's making a confession. That one sentence may seem like a compliment on the surface, but at its core, it's an emotional reveal. It tells you that he's been paying attention, that he's mentally and possibly emotionally separating you from the crowd. Let's break down what this really means. This phrase is almost always rooted in comparison. That doesn't mean he's directly measuring you against every woman he's dated, but he is contrasting the energy you bring with what he's previously experienced. Whether it's your confidence, emotional intelligence, calm presence, ambition, or even how you handle conflict, it's making an impact on him, one he's not used to, one he finds rare. But here's the real insight. When a man tells you you're different, he's also telling you how he sees himself in relation to you. He might be realizing that you challenge him, inspire him, or make him reflect in ways that feel new. Maybe he feels more seen, more heard, more drawn to be authentic with you than with anyone before. And when he says this phrase, he's naming that shift out loud, even if he doesn't fully understand it himself yet. There's also admiration tucked into those words. He's likely been quietly observing how you carry yourself. Maybe you have boundaries he respects. Maybe you bring warmth without pressure. Or maybe you're simply not playing the typical dating games he's used to. Your vibe disrupts what he thought he knew, and that disruption is attractive. For emotionally available men, this phrase is often the prelude to emotional bonding. It's a step toward attachment, because it signals recognition, not just of who you are, but how he feels around you. He's not just acknowledging that you're nice or pretty, he's identifying you as rare. And that perceived rarity increases your emotional value in his world. But, and this is important, not every "you're different" is genuine. Sometimes men use this phrase as a form of emotional bait, especially if they think it's what you want to hear. So how do you tell the difference? Look at the context and the consistency. If he says it but his actions show he's not serious, he's inconsistent, non-communicative, or keeps you guessing, it might be manipulation. But if this phrase is paired with vulnerability, curiosity about your life, respect for your boundaries, and consistent effort, it's real. He's not just saying it to flatter you. He's trying to define what he's starting to feel. Men don't typically talk about the future unless they're serious or at the very least emotionally curious about where things are going. So when he says he can see a future with you, he's communicating that he's been thinking beyond the moment. He's not just enjoying your conversations, your chemistry, or the way you make him feel today. He's asking himself, could this last? Could this be it? This phrase often doesn't come out in a perfectly planned way. It might slip out after a great weekend together, a meaningful conversation, or during a moment where he's feeling connected, safe, and emotionally understood. And when it comes from that place, it's not a line, it's a reveal. He's letting you know he's mentally moved from just dating to actually considering. More importantly, this statement is about inclusion. When a man says, "I see a future with you," he's mentally starting to fit you into his bigger picture, his goals, his plans, his lifestyle. He's no longer thinking as just me, he's beginning to think as we. That could mean he's thinking about what building a life together might look like, how you fit into his world, or whether your visions align. It's about integration, and that's a strong sign of emotional maturity. It also shows intention. In the modern dating world, where ambiguity and vague connections are everywhere, a man declaring his future vision with you in it is stepping outside of the norm. He's saying, "I'm not just here for a good time, I'm thinking long term." That doesn't mean he's ready to get married tomorrow, but it does mean he's not seeing this as a temporary situation. But here's the subtle beauty of it. This phrase isn't just about what he wants, it's about what you bring out in him. Men don't say this to just anyone. If he can see a future with you, it's because something about your energy makes him feel safe, inspired, and hopeful. Maybe you make him feel more at peace. Maybe your values align. Maybe your ambition mirrors his own. Whatever the specifics, something about you makes the idea of a future feel better than whatever he imagined on his own. It's also a trust signal. He's not just saying he wants you around, he's saying he can count on you to be someone he could build with. And that kind of trust doesn't come easy, especially for men who've been hurt or burned before. So when he says it, believe that he's thought about it, even if only quietly. So how should you respond? First, recognize the vulnerability in his words. He's extending a piece of his emotional world. Whether you feel the same or not, honor it with grace. If you do see the same potential, don't be afraid to mirror it with something like, "That means a lot to hear. I've been thinking about what this could become too." It deepens the bond and gives him reassurance that his feelings aren't one-sided. On the other hand, if you're not quite sure yet, you don't have to force a false promise. You can still say, "I really value how honest you're being. It's something I'm thinking about too, and I like where this is going." That keeps the door open while giving him respect for his honesty. At the end of the day, "I can see a future with you" is a milestone phrase. It signals that he's not just caught up in attraction, he's connecting with possibility. And in that moment, you're not just someone he likes, you're someone he could build a life with. And that's the beginning of something real. So you've just heard one or maybe even all of these powerful phrases from a man. I've never told anyone this before, You make me want to be better. What are we? I miss you. You're different from other women. I can see a future with you. Each one on its own can feel like a turning point. Together, they're like puzzle pieces of a much bigger picture, a picture that points to depth, emotional vulnerability, and growing attachment. Now, here's the question. What should you do when you hear them? How do you respond without overthinking, without playing it too cool, or without giving too much too soon? First, pause, breathe. Know that when a man says any of these things, especially without being prompted, he's stepping outside of his emotional comfort zone. Men aren't usually socialized to express feelings directly. So when they do, it's often a big deal. It's not just about what he says, it's why he says it and how he says it. Tone, timing, and consistency all matter. Your job in these moments isn't to solve or define everything immediately. It's to listen with awareness. Try to sense the feeling under the phrase. Is he being vulnerable? Is he sharing because he feels safe with you? Or is he testing the waters to see if you feel the same way? If it feels genuine, lean in with warmth and curiosity. You don't need to match the intensity word for word, but offering emotional presence in return creates a safe space for the connection to grow. For example, if he says, I can see a future with you, and you're not sure yet, you can say, that means a lot. I'm excited to see where this is going too. You're not over-promising, but you're showing you're present. The key is emotional attunement. When someone opens up, they're offering you a glimpse of their emotional landscape, whether that's desire, fear, longing, or curiosity. It's raw. Responding with empathy, not fear or defensiveness, builds trust. And trust is the foundation of any real connection. Now, what if it feels too soon? What if you hear, I miss you after one date, or you're different, before you've even really had deep conversations? It's okay to be cautious, but don't immediately assume it's manipulative. Some people feel deeply quickly. The real question is, do his actions support his words? Does he follow through? Is he consistent? Does he respect your pace? Don't ignore your instincts. If something feels off or rushed, it's okay to say, I appreciate what you said. I want to take the time to get to know each other fully. That keeps the tone kind but firm. You're not rejecting him. You're setting a rhythm that works for you. Also, don't lose yourself in the emotion of the moment. These phrases can feel intoxicating, especially when they align with what you want to hear. But emotional maturity is not just about listening to words. It's about observing patterns. If a man says he sees a future with you but keeps you in limbo, that's a disconnect. If he says you're different but treats you like everyone else, that's a red flag. On the flip side, if a man says these things and consistently backs them up with action, care and presence, then lean in. That's emotional alignment. That's where true intimacy starts to grow. So here's the bottom line. These 6 phrases aren't just romantic. They're revelations. They're clues into how a man feels, how he thinks, and what he's starting to want with you. But it's not just about hearing them. It's about knowing how to hold them with self-respect, with discernment, and with confidence in your own emotional intelligence. Because when a man speaks from his heart, you don't need to react. You just need to receive, reflect, and respond from a place of strength. That's what creates emotional chemistry that lasts.